What's going on, everybody? ChromeOnRust here. We're going to be taking a look at a fire build for your M6 T6 type of Demon Hunter. You know, you're going to probably be able to run this up to around Greater Rift level 30, and if you're not quite in Torment 6 yet, you're going to be able to run this below that. Now, what we're going to be taking a look at is a build that came out in patch 2.1.2 because they launched patch 2.1.2 at the very end of Season 1, but I don't want to get into that too much because I could harp on that probably for about 20 minutes and just turn this into a complete rage video. So we're not going to be doing that, but we are going to be starting out with our skills for our Demon Hunter. Now this is going to be a fire-based build, but we are going to be using sentries with polar stations. Now the reason for this is we'll just throw out a polar station, and you can see that little AoE. Well, that is going to be slowing and or chilling the mobs, chills the mobs that you see. And well, we're going to be getting full benefit then out of our Call of the Week, increased damage against slowed or chilled monsters, and also in addition to that, we're going to be getting benefit from our Bane of the Trap. So if you're planning on using those two, even though you're running a fire spec, you still are going to be having to use your sentries with the polar stations. Now, multi-shot with Arsenal, this is our fire ability that we're actually stacking fire skills damage for. Just shoot this bunch, don't spam it too much or you're else going to be running out of hatred. But you know, this is what you're going to be spamming 90% of the time. Now, preparation with punishment, companion, and vengeance. I'm going to kind of lump all these together because the three of these are really for your hatred generation. Preparation restores 75% hatred or 75 hatred. Your bat companion is going to instantly gain 50 hatred. It's also going to grant you a little bit of hatred regeneration. Then we scroll over to the vengeance with the seeds. Yes, you're going to be getting the benefit of the side rockets or the side guns, the homing rockets, but also gain 10 hatred per second while vengeance is active. It's going to be stacking for 15 seconds. It's pretty nice to have those three. You almost find yourself at the point that you don't need the Reaper's Wraps, but I'm going to be getting into that a little bit later. Still really good though. Vault with Tumble. Just using this for evasion, you know, you find yourself in those really bad situations or even just helping yourself speed up to the next group of mobs. Vault is really amazing. Now for the passives, custom engineering, ballistics, and Call of the Week, probably your three main staples that you're going to be using as long as you're using the polar stations on your sentries. These three here really not going to be changing. This isn't hardcore, so if you plan to run some hardcore, never take off awareness. Even if you don't think you're going to die, things happen. Maybe you're going to disconnect or you just find yourself in that really bad situation. You're walled in, you can't get out. There's arcane beams, desecrator, whatever the case may be, an exploder near you. Awareness is going to save your life tenfold. Now there are some other abilities that you can go ahead and use, like steady aim is also really good. You could also go with ambush. Let's say you're farming in Torment 6, you're about to crush the monster in pretty much one shot every time. So you just need a little bit more damage. Maybe throwing an ambush is going to be for you, because when mobs are above 75% of their life, you're going to be dealing 40% additional damage, and if the mob only has about 10% of their life yet left, when you shot them, you know, if you threw on the ambush, you're probably just going to incinerate them completely in one shot. So those are the skills. If you have any questions, you know, always post them in the comments of this video. I'll hopefully be able to answer them for you as soon as I can and as best as I can. Now we're going to jump over to the inventory. There is quite a bit of gearing choices, but at the same time, there's not a ton of gearing choices. So what you are going to need to use this build is going to be 5 pieces of Marauders. You're also going to be needing the Royal Ring of Grandeur. You're going to be getting this from your Act 1 bounty bags. And then a Cinder Coat. A Cinder Coat, you can just find it out anywhere in the world. You're going to want fire skills, deal damage, dexterity, sentry damage, and 3 sockets, hopefully, with as much reduced resource cost of fire skills that you possibly can get. Because with our T6, M6 type Demon Hunters now, well, with any M6 Demon Hunter, I should say, we're going to be spamming our abilities to make our sentries shoot. No longer are they just going to be shooting for us. And well, that is why we're going to be needing a ton of hatred from our skills. That is why we are going to be looking for reduced resource cost on our gear. In addition to that, finding some cooldown reduction can also help you a lot. Now, the slots that you're probably going to be wanting to also use is going to be a Reaper's Wraps. Reaper's Wraps, you can get away without using them. It's not like you have to have them, but you will be able to spam and use your mana or resources a little bit less frivolously, or a little more frivolously, I should say. Having the Reaper's Wraps, they're really nice. Just want them with fire skills, dex fit, all res, and well, if you can get a secondary of reduced damage from range or melee attacks, maybe some physical resistance on there, you're going to be doing really nice. Now the other mandatory one you could say is going to be the Bombardier's Rucksack, and the reason for this is you're going to be allowed to have 2 additional sentries out with your Bombardier's Rucksack. Well, the 6th piece of the M6 set bonus now is your generators Elemental Arrow, Chakram, Impale, Multi-Shot, and Cluster Arrow deal 100% damage for every active sentry. So you have 5 active sentries, well, you're going to be getting 500% increased damage for every, or 500% increased damage for those 5 sentries. Now, if we take a look over at our custom engineering is actually going to change our number of stacks that we can have from our sentries from 2 to 3, also giving us and allowing us to have out 3 sentries. So that's the total of 3. We go over to the Bombardier's Rucksack. This is not going to increase our charges of our sentries at all, but it is going to be allowing you to have out those 2 additional sentries for the max of 5. You used to be able to get up to like 7 if you're going to be using the Hell Trapper or something like that, but 5 now is the cap. Even if you're using the Hell Trapper and the Bombardier's Rucksack, 5 is it. That's all you can get, just 5. Now for the weapon, we got the weapon. Really, any weapon that's an ancient, that's a 2-handed crossbow is what you're going to be wanting to use. Just high raw damage. You don't need the attack speed on there. If you get some resource cost in addition to the 10%, or if you could get some cooldown in addition to the 10% damage, it's going to be really nice and be helping you out quite a bit. But always make sure that you have a socket and you use an emerald in your weapon. It's so good. Unless it's really early in the game, then you're going to find yourself using a ruby. Now the other ring here, you can see it's actually not a unity ring. I use this Demon Hunter for farming in groups, for farming solo. Really, you don't need unity rings in Torment 6 anymore. The gear that you're going to be able to acquire is going to be more than sufficient enough for farming Torment 6, taking a couple hits and completely incinerating everything in your path. So the Stone of Jordan is really nice for that. And then something like your amulet, you're really just looking for fire skills or dexterity, and then you're definitely going to want crit chance, crit damage, and a socket. It's definitely going to be the way to go. If you could come across, what are they called, the Hellfire amulets, those are really good, but they're really hard to farm. So if someone tells you that is like the best in slot amulet for your demon hunters, just know that you're going to be doing a lot of farming to end up finding one, unless you just get extremely lucky, which is going to happen to some players. Now for the belt, I am using a string of ears here, but really the belt, the amulet, your second ring, your weapon, it's all going to be optional. Even the bracers are going to be to some extent optional in gearing choices. You really just need the 5 pieces of M6, the Royal Ring of Grandeur, and the Cinder Coat, and you're going to be able to just start crushing things. Now I also want to jump into the Paragon Points here. I have been sometimes maxing out Maximum Hatred in the Paragon Points. It's nice. You're using the Reaper's Wraps, you get a little bit of additional generation back, or hatred back, I guess I should say, while using Reaper's Wraps, because Reaper's Wraps are going to give you 30% of your hatred for every health club that you pick up. Having some additional hatred is going to increase the amount that you get from that 30%. Always, 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 first things first, cap out your movement speed. You're going to be getting 10 from your companions, and then you're going to want to get 15 from your core points. Then the rest, I just dump into dexterity, get a little bit of increased armor, a little bit of increased damage, really nice. First things being first, if your crit hit chance is low, you want to get crit hit chance first, but demon hunters are going to find themselves crit hit damage starved, so you might want to go crit hit damage, crit hit chance, then cooldown, and then attack speed, but this is kind of debatable. Cooldown is really good, but I just feel like the raw damage from crit chance and crit damage is just too good to pass up, and then attack speed, going for that one last. Here we go for the all res, the armor, the life percent, and then the life regeneration. This isn't necessarily set in stone. If your gear needs one thing more than the other, you could find yourself maybe maxing out, life percent more. If you're just extremely low, you may just need to get some life percent. Utility, resource cost is a must. Life on hit is really good, and area damage. They all kind of level out in the same area. I would see resource cost is what you're going to be wanting first. If you're having trouble with survivability, then go life on hit. But if you're not, area damage. area damage is going to be pretty nice because on our demon hunters, as I said, we are actually going to be shooting at monsters. It's really crazy, I know, but we're going to be doing it. Now the last thing that we're going to be taking a look at is we are just going to run through a Torment 6 Rift, just kind of show off the build, talk about it a little, and maybe even rage about patch 2.1.2 coming out during season 1 just a bit. So what you're going to want to do, you don't necessarily want to just spam your multi-shot. You're going to kind of want to just kite around a little bit, shoot a couple times, and then find yourself in the next room before the monsters actually die. You can see that I have one sentry here. You just kind of throw another sentry maybe over here. Get a little bit of spread, and that way when you're actually using your multi-shot, you're getting more use out of it. The more sentries you have down, the more damage that you're going to be able to deal. Now, unfortunately, this is not a very dense rift. The nice thing about patch 2.1.2 is, well, they actually have increased the density of like rifts and greater rifts. They said that they have not given us the legendary drop rate bonus from consoles. I believe the 360 and the PS3, my buddy was telling me, have double drops on console for legendaries. But I'm here to tell you, with what they've done, with making us more powerful, with also increasing mob density, increasing the rate at which goblins spawn, and you can find goblin packs throughout your rifts. I found up to 13 legendaries in one rift, and my buddy just the other day, the one guy who I actually play this game with still, he found like 16 or 18, it was 16 or 18 legendaries in one run from doing a rift. Now I realize we are also doing full clears now, and the reason for doing a full clear is with the speed at which you are going to be able to run to clear things. You can see that I'm just kind of throwing down a sentry, shooting, and everything dies. At the rate at which you clear, you're going to be clearing to the Rift Guardian. You're going to get to him so fast that you're actually better off in most cases, I feel, personally, with the way things are now, and especially with the double goblins right now. Running through Torment 6 and only killing to the Rift Guardian is not going to be beneficial, because you're actually probably going to find yourself at about a 1-to-1 ratio of time spent doing bounties to time spent doing rifts, because you just crush through the rifts so fast that you can actually probably do them just about as fast as you could do a bounty if you were only running to the Rift Guardian. So I recommend doing the full clears here, and the same thing goes, as you can tell, for just throughout the whole rift. I'm spreading out my sentries a little bit. You really want to make sure that you do kind of toss them on top of a monster, though. That's something that I still haven't quite gotten down yet. Kind of toss them on the monster to make sure that you're getting full benefit out of your Call of the Week and your gem Bane of the Trapped. Because if you're not, you're better off using a different passive. You're better off using a different gem. In Torment 6, while those two may be providing you the most damage, the Call of the Week and the Bane of the Trapped, I don't necessarily feel that they're going to be necessary. I feel like there's going to be a little bit of variety, because, as I keep saying, the damage that you dish out in Torment 6 is so high. You just kind of walk by things, shoot them, they die. So it's going to be a lot more variety. Really, where all the question is going to be for classes and Demon Hunter as well, is going to be pushing the higher greater rifts. The higher greater rifts is really where all the question is. Torment 6, you have a lot of options, a lot of variety, which is kind of good. I kind of like the way that they have the game set up. Maybe Torment 6 is slightly too easy at this point. Like before, Torment 6 was already pretty easy. But now, with the way things are, Torment 6 is extremely on the not difficult side. So maybe they need to come out with a couple more Torments, but I like what they're doing. They don't want you to always be having to push the hardest content like Diablo was when Vanilla launched. Just pushing the hardest content, and people find themselves kind of bored. And they just really, really, really want to crush things, but it's not efficient, so they're not going to. Because there's just, when you play Diablo or a game like Diablo, you want to be getting the most out of your time, at least some people do. And well, if that means pushing the hardest content and maybe not having quite as much fun as you could have, that's probably just something that you're going to do. Just stay in the hardest content and get the best, most efficient playtime that you can. But not having greater rifts as the only way to play, and having Torment 6 rifts to kind of counteract the really difficult time, it's kind of nice. Makes it kind of reminds you of a Diablo game. You know, when you're able to just kind of run through and blast things and not have to worry about every affix that a monster has. And is he going to kill you? Is this your time to die? You know, if you're playing in softcore, it's not as bad. But it gets a little stressful sometimes when you're playing in the hardcores. So here is our Rift Guardian. We're just going to pop out as many turrets as we possibly can. One thing that I do like to do is when I'm low, like on my Hatred here, I like to pop my Vengeance, but at the same time also pop my Companion. So that way I'm getting the Companion buff bonus. And it's giving it to my side guns and my additional homing rockets that I'm getting from my Vengeance. So it's really easy to just run a build like this. You don't even necessarily have to run all these skills. It is a pretty good build. I've seen other Demon Hunters using this as well. I've seen Fellows using this. I have seen Gabionator using this. So if you're looking to crush some Torment 6, this is the build that I would recommend you to use. I'm ChromeOnRust for ChromeExpert Gaming. As I said before, if you have any questions, post them in the comments of this video. I'll try to get back to them as fast as I can. Well, that's it for me. Like, subscribe if you would. I'm out of here, and you all have a great day.